zombie deck in a racing like world would be suck if the game dead last. Yeah, no, that's a terrible joke, but yeah, no, we'll go along with it. Hey, I'm CJ, and in this video we are going to be going over the second commander deck when it comes to Aetherdrift, and it's called Eternal Might. When it comes to this, I'll be going over the commander, the sub-commander, and the context of the deck, and giving my thoughts and opinions on the deck as a whole. When it comes to this video, it's to see what's inside the deck and possibly help you if you decide to buy it or not, or if you have your own thoughts and opinions on it, to let me know in the comments down below. But in every video I got to make my little sponsor, where it's me and my little Etsy shop, where I make t-shirts and hoodies in different colours and different sizes with cool designs. I actually have a new one coming out very soon. So if you like me and what I do and want to see the t-shirts and buy one for yourself, it'll help out the channel, go buy yourself something nice. It will all be linked down below. So this is a zombie deck. Now, they have made previous zombie decks before, so there will be a little bit of me comparing other zombies or well-known commander zombies as well. Before actually going through this, I had a quick look and already have somewhat high expectations for this deck, and I've heard loads of praise when it comes to it as well. So if you know absolutely nothing when it comes to this deck, I will be going over the commander, and the commander of the deck is Temet Nakatum's Will. For 2 white, blue and a black, you get a legendary creature zombie wizard that is a mythic, has vigilance and menace. Whenever you attack, draw a card, then discard a card. Whenever you draw a card, zombies you control get +1/+1 until end of turn, and is a 4/4. Usually when it comes to a commander, the highest I usually go is 5 mana, unless it is absolutely broken or has a really cool ability that I want to build around. Usually I think 5 mana is max when it comes to a good commander with good abilities. When it comes to this, it is a 4/4 with 2 keywords, one being really good because of the vigilance, so I like it there, and the second one being menace, so it's harder to block. Now, the part of the card I don't like, but again, this is just me. I'm not a big fan of drawing and discarding. I know you draw a card and probably get rid of the weakest card in your hand, but unless the deck has graveyard recursion, I like trying to use every single card in my deck to its optimum, so I never try and discard, but that's just how I play. I know a lot of people that do like discard because they get rid of cards they don't need at the moment. But then the biggest part of it as well, whenever you draw a card, zombies get +1/+1, including this. So if you get a large amount of draw spells or draw a large amount of cards, you're able to literally win with commander damage, never mind the amount of zombie army that you're planning on making. This is a very good commander in my opinion, and I'm actually really excited to see where this goes. Personally, I do not have a zombie deck, and I'm not fully interested in zombies, but this is a commander I could see myself playing. But with every commander, there is a sub-commander, and the sub-commander of this deck is Nashaton's Scarab's Fist. For a white and black, you get a legendary creature, zombie wizard, that is a mythic. Whenever you discard a creature card, you may pay 2 and a blue. If you do, create a tap token that's a copy of that card, except for it's a 4/4 black zombie. And it's a 1/3. To be honest, I actually think this is great. To be honest, when I seen this, do you know what popped in my head first? A Merfolk deck. Mainly because you get ways to discard, and Merfolk's usually 1 or 2 or maybe possibly 3 damage, but they usually come in being unblockable or turning other things unblockable. So with this in my head, I was like, cool, here is a 1/1 unblockable creature, I'm going to discard it, pay 3, and now it's a 4/4 unblockable creature. And that's just without putting in white or black as well. This would be a really cool sub-commander. It is still in the 3 colours, and you get a lot to do with it. You get to bring back stuff from your graveyard because it doesn't say it is a separate card. You get a token of it, so if it's a non-legendary creature, you're able to bring back from your graveyard the original creature too. So if you had a, we'll say, for example, if you had a Wormcoil Engine, and you discard your Wormcoil Engine, you get a 4/4 version of it, and then if you play, we'll say, any card that lets you bring something back from the graveyard, you bring back Wormcoil Engine, then you have 2 Wormcoil Engines, and if they both die, you then get 4 of the tokens. Plus, there is a few white double tokens as well. This commander can be played in multiple different ways, and that's what I like about this one. So let's go on to the deck itself now, starting off with the Planeswalkers. When it comes to this, there is one Planeswalker, and that is Liliana Death's Majesty. For 5 mana you get a 5 loyalty planeswalker that actually does everything you want this deck to do. Now there is many lilies that they could have had, but to be honest I'm not too annoyed but also not too happy. To be honest, the one I thought originally, because I did hear it that Liliana was going to be in this, was Jedhard General, the War of the Spark one, because I thought this was going to be a token deck and that helps a lot with tokens, but to be honest I think that Lily has been overprinted. This one I do think is quite good. The fact that you are able to activate its ability to make a zombie token and then put stuff in your graveyard for that recursion that I mentioned before is a really good ability. Plus having the sub-commander's pretty much effect on the Planeswalker 2 is quite good, because then you're able to double down on it. And then with this being a zombie deck, if there is any non-zombies, I see a lot of people taking them out and putting in the more powerful expensive zombies and having this as a pure zombie deck. So her ult literally pops everyone else but you. So I really do think this was a good card to put into this deck. So now let's go on to the creatures of this deck. When it comes to this, there's 36 creatures in total, but I won't be going over all of them. I'll be going over a majority of the good ones, and they are Priest of the Crossing, Wizard Mentor, Prophet of the Scarab, Hret Tomb Mystic, Lost Monarch of Lifnir, Crypt Breaker, Grave Titan, Grave Crawler, Midnight Reaper, Murderous Rider, Zombie Master, Angel of Sanctation, God Eternal Oketra, Forgotten Creation, Archtheme of Infna, Cemetery Reaper, Plague Belcher, Rothulk, the Scarab God. So now my thoughts and opinions on this. There is a handful of good cards in here that I have seen over the years, and a lot of them, but the one thing I do like about this is there seems to be a lot of newer cards. This right now so far is becoming a very good deck. There is a bit of old cards in it that I've seen everywhere, like Grave Titan and stuff like that, but there's a handful of new stuff that works well with other things. To be honest, I think the creatures, in my opinion, are probably going to be the main focus of this deck. So then possibly it's all downhill from here. So now let's go on to the enchantments of this deck. When it comes to the enchantments of this deck, there's 4 in total, so I'm just going to go over all 4, and they are On Wings of Gold, Renewed Solidary, Dreadhorde Invasion, and Cast Out. To be honest, when it comes to this, there's no ups or downs. There's, I think, 2 new cards that I'm like, oh, these are good and quite powerful. Dreadhorde Invasion, of course, is probably a must. When it comes to these type of decks, it's pretty much the bitter boss of zombies. And then Cast Out is okay overall. To be honest, this is, when it comes to the deck, depending on the price, this part where I start saying if it's going under or over. To be honest, I think this is perfectly fine. So in saying that, let's go over the spells. When it comes to the spells, there's 8 in total. I won't be going over all of them, but here are some on screen now. Commence the Endgame, Pull from Tomorrow, Dusk, Dawn, Dread Summons, and Never. Seeing them all half cards is really weird, but again, this is where zombie cards were made, all these sets were originally, so again, seeing them is kind of a, not a flashback, but a good remembrance of where zombies came from. When it comes to the rest of these, again, I find the spells not to be great, but not to be bad as well. There is a handful of cards that I could think of that would go well in this deck, but to be honest, I say that's probably leaning towards the more pricier side, where it's not really good for Wizards to do. I know that because they're selling decks, they need to make it that they get a profit, and I do think at the same time, there needs to still be good cards in it. So again, this is probably like the perfect meh. I'm going to take a handful of them out, in my opinion. And then on to artifacts. When it comes to this, there's 12 artifacts in total. A lot of them are some form of mana dork, but you get good artifacts just like Crowded Crypt, God Pharaoh's Gift, Maxwood Nexus. Maxwood Nexus in this made me actually giggle a bit. I think turning everything into zombies would only disrupt Lily's ult. But to be honest, I do think it is a good card in here. To be honest, I think the black card that turns all other creatures into a certain creature type would have gone better, but I don't know the price from the top of my head, so they might have put this in as the cheaper variant, or it could also be the more expensive variant. When it comes to the other 2 cards, I think they are good for this deck and okay, but it depends on each individual player if they're going to take it out or not. And then usually the weakest part of any of these pre-con decks is the lands. When it comes to this, there's 39 lands in total, but you get lands just like Accursed Dunyard, A Darker Wastes, Caves of Kolios, Drowned Catacombs, Glacial Fortress, Isolated Chapel, Prairie Stream, Sunken Hollow, Temple of Descent, Temple of Silence, and Unholy Grotto. Now usually when it comes to these, I'm actually a bit more on the good side. This is probably maybe when it comes to lands slightly better than what they usually do, and they added in a new land I believe, or 2 new lands I believe. So again, this is slightly better than the lands they usually do, so again I like that they're going in that direction. When it comes to this, I will always say, at least now that they're really low price, put in filter lands. I think filter lands are great for precons and newer players, and they're not really expensive anymore. So now my thoughts and opinions on this deck as a whole. To be honest, as a zombie deck, zombies only really doing the same things over and over again, I really do like this. I like that the commander and the sub-commander have 2 completely separate ways to play the game. Now in saying that, I do find the deck has actually got a good medium of both, but I do think if someone wants to make a powerful zombie deck, they need to focus on one or the other. Kind of take one out and then focus on one. But again, if people just want to play for fun, having it and just slightly upgrading it is also a really good option. I originally thought this set and the decks were not going to be as good, and I was really dreading it. To be honest, I still think, in my personal opinion, it is not good, but I do think that this deck at least is better than I originally thought it was going to be. I thought the other deck that I made a video on was going to be just okay, and it was. When it comes to this deck as a whole, I would actually give it a, we'll say 7.4. If you agree or disagree, let me know in the comments down below. What zombie cards or other cards do you think would go really well in this deck? How do you build it? If you have built it or put it on Moxfield, let me know in the comments down below. All that and all the good stuff. Remember to like and subscribe and share to your friends. And if you like this one, I have the previous deck video here, a playlist of all these videos I do of Is Magic the Gathering Worth It here, and a subscribe button here, and I will see you all in the next video.